Hello there. It's 3 p.m. instead of 2 p.m. like I said it was going to be. No big deal. We're here now. And I'm so excited. This is my first guest Facebook Live. The first time we've scheduled one. We're just doing all the new things today. So super excited. And we have an excellent guest today. Her name is Natasha Burgess. And I know her because she's my assistant and probably the best assistant in the world. Not biased, just saying. And we're going to talk to you today about being efficient. That's something that I really love, is efficiency. I work very hard in my life and in my business to be efficient. And so it's something that I love to chat about as well. And it's something that Natasha is an expert in, absolute expert in. So I'm excited to chat with her about that, to give you some tips and tricks how to be more efficient in your business and in your life, maybe. And maybe just sort of go over what a VA does, because I definitely didn't know when I got started. So Natasha, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Natasha. So having multiple careers over the last 20 years, Natasha Burgess finally found her true passion last year as a business owner. She's a Canadian-based virtual assistant as Zen Assistant, who helps busy entrepreneurs focus on the strategy and growth of their business rather than the never-ending pile of administrative tasks. That was me, never-ending pile of administrative tasks. Based on her unique skill set, Natasha is able to provide guidance on management, hiring, digital processes, and marketing. She quickly integrates herself as part of her team rather than just being a VA. So here she is, Natasha Burgess. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Caitlin. Appreciate it.
So how about you start with how you got to where you are? Why are you a VA now?
Great question. Like a lot of things in life, it kind of happened by accident with a little bit of purpose sprinkled in. As you mentioned in the intro, I've had multiple careers. Aircraft maintenance engineering. I worked in retail banking for 15 years. I've done management, worked with a few startups, and then I was a recruiter. And I was always finding a way to be successful at those, super fast paced, using all my organizational skills. But it got to the point where I wasn't in charge of what my life looked like, and I wanted more freedom and flexibility, and had this plan to move where I wanted to move, and that wasn't going to happen reporting to someone else. So I took the plunge and did up a website and had one client who wanted to work with me, and the rest is history.
Amazing. I think that's kind of the starting point of a lot of small business owners, where they're just like, I need to control my schedule more than I do currently. Yeah, for sure. I definitely, when I started to get overwhelmed, it was a year ago that we sort of started working together. And that was definitely I needed to control my schedule. That was part of the reason, even having being a small business owner already, it was I need my time back. I need to be able to control my schedule, and I need to not be spending so much time on administrative work and onboarding. I think the week that I hired you, I had spent 2 full days just onboarding.
Onboarding clients. I know. And it's a catch-22 because small business owners, especially women entrepreneurs, have to be in control to be successful. That's how they got their business off the ground. But they get so used to controlling every aspect of their business and feeling the need that they have to, run it from beginning to end in order for it to be authentic. You get stuck in that mindset, and then you're not actually able to scale your business to the brilliance that you're capable of and you want it to be, because you're not willing to give up control, or maybe fearful of giving up control. And it was interesting because I was talking with someone the other day, and they were apologizing for this mindset. And I literally said, every single woman entrepreneur I've ever spoken with is exactly the same, and I would expect nothing less, but I'm going to help you get over that fear, so that we can, see your business just take off.
Yeah. That was definitely a piece for me in the beginning, just being okay, but if I let go of this, is it going to have the same feel? Or is the interaction with my clients is so important. That's what I'm selling, basically. So that was definitely a scary piece for me. But I know that pretty quickly I was able to be like, no, she's got it, she's good. I don't need to be on this anymore.
Well, and thank you for that. It does become very important that you find someone you can trust and trust your clients with. And we know that can go incredibly wrong. And that's, of course, what we're afraid of. So you need to find someone that understands your voice, your standards, what your clients need and are looking for, so that they can slot themselves in. Again, not necessarily as an assistant. I don't mind that term. I love it. But really a team member, so that it's seamless for clients and seamless for the business owner, etc.
For sure. So you make people more efficient in a sense. Well, definitely not in a sense. Partly because you take over pieces that they're probably not very good at, or like they're fine at, but that's not the thing that they do. They're not like cash activities, and it's generally things that are not, they don't require the subject matter expertise of the small business owner, like for like the accounting stuff, like it's not. So how do you ensure that each client becomes more efficient, I guess? Or like, that's a weird question. Maybe.
No, I understand what you're saying. What you're saying. So first off, it becomes really important to do a really deep discovery, because every client is different. Every client of mine. So every business owner is different. Yes, entrepreneur brains definitely have similarities, and so that helps. But we're all unique human beings with great strengths and challenges. And so I really need to ask open-ended questions to understand where that business owner's strengths are and what they're really struggling with. And again, they tend to generically fall into a lot of the same categories, but find those nuances and then run with it. And I'm often able, as sort of an observer coming in, being able to quickly identify, hey, you need help in this area. I'm going to list some just general ones that come up a lot, because some people have never worked with a virtual assistant, or maybe they've heard of VAs online from overseas, which definitely have their place. I have clients that will use those for some really basic things to save money, and then use someone like me who has that more holistic skill set that's able to, be client facing, etc. So for instance, could be something as simple as organizing email. How many of us have inboxes, not you, Caitlin, but that have, 3,000 emails, half of them unread? You try to find something that you need for later, forget it, it's not happening. So I can go in and set up a system that's color-coded, organized, files, and then even rules, so that going forward, you have a clean inbox, and that you can manage things as they come in, and or even have me be able to go into your email and respond to easy things, so that you are only taking care of the really, really important stuff. I find folks, I know it is for me, if I have a cluttered house, a cluttered inbox, a cluttered car, it causes me stress and anxiety. And when things are organized and clean, I feel good, I feel calm. So that's one example. Another one would be a calendar. People rely on their good memories or their notebooks to keep track of things. It's not that you're not smart and you're not capable, you have a big brain, but when you have that many priorities, you can't sleep at night because you're literally trying to remember what you forgot. And so being able to have calendar notes, to-dos, we can set up systems that work for folks in that regard. Something like, you need to promote your business, marketing, but who has time for that? I'll laugh because I do not promote my business enough, because I'm so busy doing it for other people. So that's something that I need to step up my game in. But this can include Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, your website, even newsletters, etc. And I use this etc. a lot, because you can see it. There's just so many possibilities of what you can use. Yeah. So those are just some examples of how someone, virtual assistant like me, could start to help.
Certainly the inbox and calendar, or like to-dos, was a thing that I struggled with, where I had so many emails that hadn't been sorted, and like I was trying to leave them unread, but so it was like trying to create like a weird system in there, and it wasn't it was like I was kind of limping along, but it really wasn't working. And then like the to-dos, exactly what you said, where I was trying to keep it all in my brain, and it works for the first little while. And I think that's why we end up sort of thinking that it'll keep working and not really spending time to put a system in place. And it's hard to put a new system in place and to trust that the thing that you're gonna like leave, like put out of your brain and into another system is still gonna remind you. I definitely think that I put a little bit too much faith in my own brain.
I do. And once I was able to release that, realizing what it really came down to share on a personal note, is I ended up, he's almost 18, but my oldest ended up having some, very significant medical issues and so many appointments that I had to navigate while at that time in a very intense corporate career, managing a team of approximately, give or take, 15 people, plus my own life and my medical appointments. And then, hubby's forgetting what he's doing over here. And then the youngest kid, we'd forget to sign up for his fun lunch that week. And it just hit me all at once. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And so I came up with an online system that I was using for free and just started plug and play and integrating personal calendars. And then when I figured out I could do work as well, it was like this complete release. Why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Because I knew if I wrote it down and put it in there right away, then I could just forget about it. And I never had this nagging back in my head anymore that I was forgetting 10 things and couldn't breathe.
Yeah. It's amazing how just writing it down allows you to like let it go, which is not something that you really understand until you do it. Yeah. And I've been using sort of a hybrid system, right? Like I've shown like my planner that I use is sort of the extension of my brain because it's fast and I can write it down and then send you a photo of what's happened. But it really needs to be, or at least for a business the size that I have, it really needs to be online and it needs to be managed regularly. And that's not something that I am necessarily good at. And I'm like an organized human.
You are. You're one of my more organized clients, I have to say.
But it's still something that I like. Outsourcing is better for me, for sure. And I love that you hold me accountable to stuff. Not that you're like, but just that if I tell you that I'm going to do something, then it makes me do it instead of just like telling myself that I'm going to do it. And so, or if the system that we've built together in planners, like we use Microsoft Office, like the suite. So we have the planner and Teams and like all that stuff that we're using. So if I am saying, okay, we're going to use planner, here's how we're going to use it. And I set that up and then I feel obligated to do it. Because, if I'm like, yeah, like, please use this system, I'm going to use it too. And then I don't, like, I don't feel good about that. So that's definitely helped me to be more organized as well and more efficient with like the to-dos that I have and stuff like that, for sure. So what are some really good tasks? What are the best tasks that someone could hand off to a virtual assistant? We sort of touched on like emails and calendar, but
sure. That's a tough one because it depends on the business. However, I would say one that folks don't often think of, but they have to navigate regardless of their business, is contracts and documents. So maybe they need a form created because they're trying to do the same thing over and over again. Maybe it's a sales order or a client onboarding, and they haven't automated that process. And, it worked fine when they had 3 clients, but now they have over 100 and forget trying to track that down. Or maybe it is doing a proper contract and putting that online and having it digitized so it can be signed. So that's something I know this sounds hilarious, but I am like passionate about contracts and document editing and creation. And I like them to be precise and correct and pretty, for lack of a better term. Visually appealing is super important to me. And so I've helped a lot of clients with that, and I've done it in my own business, and it can just create that system to smooth it out. And then once you have it up and running, you'll look back and go, why didn't I ever do this way before? Yeah. So I would say that's one of the top ones, because it doesn't matter if you are, a sole proprietor or a corporation that's growing significantly. I feel like that's an easy win. that you can start right away and scale up pretty quickly as needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something that we did sort of right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I had a process that I had worked on my own, but yeah, really automating that onboarding and contracts. It doesn't even have to be onboarding, but just the deals that you're making with people.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was a very online person right from the start, but how do you help small business owners switch to online?
That's a great question. And it can be really tough for people because there's a lot of folks who have this brilliance to them and they're really good at what they do. And often that does not include having their business online. And I think there was a fair few who were getting away with still being old school, and then COVID hit, it just wasn't doable anymore. And so, I have had a couple clients where they've reluctantly, understanding they need to embrace it, but it's been very difficult for them. And so I've helped them with that process. I will say the beginning of it is always the most uncomfortable, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. So if you have a virtual assistant like me, I can go from full-on hand-holding to teaching, coaching, to getting you to do it yourself, or I can just do it all for you. Most entrepreneurs want to know how it works so that they can fiddle with it when they need to in the background, and I respect that. So I will take as much time as you need. That said, there is infinitely so many program systems, even stuff for free out there. You don't even have to pay to. You can try and use what you like, whether that's document signing, organization tools to keep track, like Asana, Trello, Microsoft Planner, infinite amount of resources online. If you have someone like me, I can recommend ones that work with your systems that you're already working with. Sometimes it really is just changing your mindset, saying, okay, I'm scared to do this, but I've got someone who's going to help me, so I'm not going to completely fall flat on my face, and let's just go for it. And it'll happen quicker and more smoothly than I think you realize, especially if you have help.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it, is that going online seems scary because if something breaks and you don't know how it works, then you can't fix it. Yeah, I know that's
scary. A big one.
Too, yeah.
For sure it is. For sure it is. I have someone I work with, and it took us a really long time, but trying to explain why getting on the cloud was important, whether that's G Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox, because it's like, if your computer does break or someone steals it out of your car, your laptop, yeah, like that happened to you yesterday, then you're not scrambling for 2 weeks or all of a sudden losing important client information. There you go for that one. And depending on your industry, there's some really secure lockdown tight you can get for financial information, et cetera, that you use. But where I'm going with this is, no matter how small you are, even personally, get on the cloud. It's protected. It works anywhere. You can get it on your phone. You can get it on your grandma's computer when you're visiting. It doesn't matter. That's a great way to avoid catastrophe right there, that one simple step.
Yeah, for sure. A little close to home.
Hasn't happened to me yet, but I know it will, and this is why I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I knew from day one, I was like, this thing's gonna die one day, and it did. It did. So when you first start working with a small business owner, I know that it's kind of I feel this way too about the services that I offer, that you're asking somebody to let you into a place in their life that is probably not somewhere that anybody else has ever been. And they probably carry a lot of negative emotions around it. So how do you navigate that sort of initial period where you're still trying to get to know each other, but they also have to give you this huge amount of trust?
That is an incredible question, and I think that not everyone is good at that. I would have to say, as far as my skill set, that is probably one of my top ones, just from the feedback I've received from managers previously, friends, colleagues. I'm a bit of an empath in the sense that but I like to call myself a business empath, in that I can read my audience, read the room, ask the right open-ended questions, and then come back and actively listen in a way that makes that person feel heard and respected, and that I know what they're looking for and what they need help with. And then I got to prove it. And so it's really important for me to prove that right away. So I have very high standards for myself, what entrepreneurs don't. But it's this extra level because I'm an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, if that makes sense. I'm a human. I make mistakes. Sometimes I miss a deadline here and there. That's happened with you and I. But I very quickly will reiterate, like, own what I did, what I'm going to do to fix it, and then how I'm going to compensate in relation to that. It's very infrequent. But I think if an entrepreneur can see that you're hardworking, you're human, you're listening, and you do everything you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, that goes a long way. So I don't think it's anything super complicated. I think in business, sometimes going back to the basics of, and when a handshake meant a handshake, it was your word, like I said, goes a long way. And it's worked for me so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think setting really good expectations and then meeting those expectations is so important in building trust, especially in the beginning. Yeah, and you're really good at being very clear about, like, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I think you want me to do, or what you want from me, and here's what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. So yeah, I think that's important too. Cool. So in terms of efficiency, is there any, so you make other people efficient. We talked about how, like, you're able to make small business owners more efficient by taking on part of their tasks, or by teaching them how to do their own tasks, or however that works, or whatever they want to do. But how do you stay really efficient in your own life and business? Because you're kind of taking on the efficiency piece of, like, a bunch of other people.
Yeah. It was interesting because you and I sort of dallied with the idea of some questions ahead of time, as me being a guest today, and still making it, casual. But I loved this question because I actually hadn't thought about it in that way before. I sort of inherently do it. So I appreciate you asking me that. It's interesting because I obviously do have a process and a structure. I have to. I've become quite the morning person, first off, which not everybody wants to hear that.
Because I'm not.
Yeah. So because I'm now in Pacific Standard Time, and I have a fair amount of clients in Eastern Standard Time, I'm up like 5 a.m. and I got to have my coffee and my little morning ritual first before I turn on my computer. But how I keep myself efficient, I have my own planner. I try to keep everything to the T online. I am tactile like you, and I like to write things sometimes. However, as quickly as possible, get it on online, and then everything, not client information, but for my own stuff, is on here. This way, I'm not tethered to my desk, and I have my organization system there. And then it's prioritize and code. Prioritize and code. So everything that's like urgent, not important, urgent and important, what can I put off for 2 days, and set a clear deadline, of course, that I'm still going to meet for a client. What are my own priorities? And then when I say code, I color code everything. I have a system, so I color code my email, I color code my calendar, I color code my to-do list. I'm a very visual person that way, so that I can take a really quick look, and based on that, my brain figures out exactly what I need to do next. And then once you get that system going, it sounds like a lot, but as we all know, we find that groove and you keep that groove going. Then it's important for me to check in with myself every month or so and go, is there more efficiencies I can find? What's not working? I took on a new client. How do I integrate this? So sometimes I have to work on the weekends and the evenings. Try not to, but you adjust. As an entrepreneur, you do what needs to be done.
For sure. And like that, the system that you're talking about, it's not a thing that usually, correct me if I'm wrong, that happens all at once. It's like developed, and each new piece is sort of layered on. So it's not like a shocking suddenly you're trying to run this whole system on top of all the other things. It's like, this is a thing that you've built out of what has worked for you.
That's a great clarification, because I know you've done the same. Just like anything else, it's an evolution. And just like everyone else, I started with one client. So that was easy. I mean, just had to write it down in one spot, no big deal. But I very quickly saw that I would need to build a process and continue to add pieces to that to stay on top of everything, instead of waiting till it was overwhelming and then trying to build something from scratch and backtrack, which is what I do with most clients. It's doable, but that's why it's so uncomfortable, because you should have built it in the first place and then evolved as you went, versus now you're panicking and having to, you're in a place where it's like, so that's a little bit more crunchy when you get there. But again, I can help with that.
Yeah, because it's not just that you're building that new system, but you also have to run a business, right? Like you don't have a system, so you don't have time, but you don't have time to build the system. Yeah.
And then you do this, it's this negative feedback loop. And this is why folks get that lump in their throat and they can't sleep at night by the time they get to me.
Yeah, I mean, I find that with my clients sometimes too, where it's one of those things that's just sort of snowballed, and now it seems overwhelming. It seems really,
of course,
and it's definitely time. If you have a physical reaction to a problem that you have in your business, it's time to hire a professional.
Yes. Yes. And this was sort of my one plug I wanted to get in. And I think a lot of people don't realize this. With a Canadian-based virtual assistant like myself, with my skill set, you are able to afford help without being able to afford a full-time employee. Because folks look at the books and go, I don't have the revenue to bring on an employee to help, but I'm not going to be able to continue if I don't get help. And so this is that really great balance of, because I start at 10 hours a month, and people go, well, what can you get done in 10 hours a month? Well, being efficient, an incredible amount of stuff in 10 hours a month. And then that cost versus in an employee who maybe only would be part-time to start, significant cost savings, plus that peace of mind. So I really want folks to consider what benefit that could bring to your business without having to break the bank and get you to that point. Then, maybe in 2 years, you've got 6 employees. Awesome. Because now you've grown to where you want to be, because you've got that time to build and grow the business.
For sure. Yeah. I found that my revenue has grown because I have time to spend on revenue generating activities. I have time to spend with clients and new sales calls. I have time to spend on creating marketing plans, or doing CEO tasks.
Yes.
Versus, onboarding everybody. And I keep going back to onboarding, but that through tax season, that really was such a big thing.
I know, an important thing, but the one thing that would keep you up till 11 o'clock at night and you couldn't have a life, right?
Yeah. Contracts and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else that you would like people to know about yourself or your business or VAs in general, or anything?
Nothing's just fit. Well, we've covered so much. I'm looking at the time here and going, we almost had a half hour. You and I sure have a good time when we talk. All I would reiterate is that, getting your business online, you absolutely, COVID situation, when it goes away, when it changes, we're not going back to the old way of doing things. So get yourself there. I know you've been considering it. Someone like myself can help. My little tag is business growth with peace of mind. It really is. That's why I call myself Zen Assistants. I want to give you your Zen back. I feel like as entrepreneurs, you almost expect to never be stress-free again. And that really, especially women entrepreneurs, and that's a topic for a whole other day because of family commitments and society and everything else. But where I'm going with this is working with me will give you some of your Zen back. It's worth every single penny. And I love doing what I do. I love taking on all that stuff you don't want to do, or stuff that you do like to do, but you just don't have time for it anymore. You'd be, I think, incredibly surprised to how far you've gone down the rabbit hole. You talk about physical symptoms of stress just because you're so used to living with it. You can be successful and have an incredible business and not have to live like that every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time it was 5 p.m. and I was like, I'm actually done. Like I was so happy. That was like, and I was like, well, like I'm done. Cool. I guess I'll go to volleyball.
Go hang out with my partner occasionally. You know, I like them once in a while.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, great. Well, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Zenassistance.co, not .com, and I didn't want to do .ca because I love Canada, don't get me wrong, but nobody can find anything with .ca. Personal opinion only. Facebook is great too. I'm on there as Zen Assistance Co. and Instagram. You'll notice it's a little sparse because of my previous comment. I'm busy with other folks' social media and newsletters. So probably my website, and I've got a very simple website with a great contact page on there, and I'll get back to you right away.
Great. Okay. I have linked to Natasha's website in the description, and I've also tagged her Facebook page on Facebook if you're watching us on Facebook, so you'll be able to find her there. Well, thank you so much for coming on, being my first guest ever.
You did awesome. This was fantastic. I had such a good time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I had fun too. I'll see you soon.
You betcha.
Probably later today. Bye. Thank you so much to Natasha for coming on. I had a lot of fun. It looks like Michelle was watching. Hi, Michelle. You're amazing too, lady. I am super excited to have done our first interview. If you're watching the replay, please leave your comments in the questions and comments in the comments, and I will answer them. If you have any specific questions for Natasha, definitely get in touch with her on her website. And if you're looking for a virtual assistant, definitely talk to her. She's made my life so much easier, and I could not have created the business that I have now with the additional team members, not just Natasha, without her. And my business is about to go to we're doing a new project and we're about to go to the next level, and I absolutely couldn't do it without her. So if you're looking for help, you need help with anything administrative wise, definitely go and chat with her. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you tomorrow.